Welcome to Daily Plunge. We are in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 24, verses 1 through 10. After the crown prince and all his officials and leaders along with him, his court are exiled off in Babylon, a vision, a word from the Lord comes to Jeremiah. Jeremiah is hearing God speak to him. And he says there are two baskets of figs. Good figs, bad figs. Figs that are tasty and ripe and tasty, and figs that are so bad they're not edible. And the good figs, he says, are actually the ones that you think are in the wrong basket. They're the exiles that are sent away. The very place that they don't want to be is where I'm going to bless them. I'm going to watch over them, and I'm going to bring them back. I'm going to build them up after, they actually have been ripped up and they've been torn down. That's why they're in exile. But in the midst of that, God is working through that. And he's going to build them up and plant them and grow them. And he's going to bring them back. How is that going to happen? It says in verse 7, I will give them a heart to know me. Now, how is that going to happen, considering that just a little bit ago we were told by Jeremiah that the heart is utterly deceptive. It is utterly corrupt. Well, because God is going to replace their heart. He's going to take their heart of stone and give them a heart of flesh. And another way of thinking about it is that they're going to go through reconstructive surgery on the heart. He's going to circumcise their heart. And this is spoken about in Deuteronomy, and then Paul also picks this up in Romans chapter 2. And it says, because their heart has been reconstructed, because it's been cut, circumcised, they will return to me with all their heart. But the bad figs, they are useless and they're detestable, right? And it's Zedekiah and his cronies, his officials, and all the people who are still in Judah. And he even says, those who were over in Egypt trying to flee from Babylon. And he says, those folks who think they got the right, they're on the right track of history, right? He says, I'm going to make them abhorrent. They're going to be shameful ridicule. They're going to become a curse and a reproach. Everyone will just mock them and scorn them, and they'll be utterly shamed. And what he says, I'm going to do this because I'm going to send sword, famine, and plague until they're destroyed. And God speaks time and time again about how he is bringing his wrath because his people have turned away from him. They have been idolatrous. They have been adulterous. They have been blasphemous. They have turned themselves into bad figs. And then it comes down to as it says in verse 10, and the land that I gave them, that promise, I'm going to give that promise away, because they didn't want the prom. They wanted the promise, but they didn't want the promise giver. And you can't have the promise if you don't want the promise giver. And that's such a key understanding of our faith. To have the blessings of faith, you got to have the one who blesses you, and that's the Lord God. Thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.